Hello everyone and welcome back to this video on the CodeBakery. So in this video I'm going to be discussing the solution to CodeForces Round 661 Division 3 Problem D, which is called Binary String to Subsequences. So I'll provide the link to the problem statement below so you guys can read it, and I highly recommend all of you guys to read the statement and at least think about how you would approach this problem. And I'll also provide my solution below, so if you guys want to see that, the link is in the description, but let's just get into the solution. So the main problem here is that we want to have all of the subsequence of strings be in the pattern of 101 or 010, and this is just going to repeat, so 010 and then 101. So it's going to be in this type of pattern. But how do we create it so that it is in this pattern? Well, we can essentially, it really doesn't matter about what is before in the sequence. It's just that if we have a 1, we know that we now need to put a 0 here. And now that we put the 0 here, we can essentially just forget that we put the 1 there at all. We can just think of it as there is a 0, it needs to be paired with a 1. Alright. So now with this, how do we do this such that we have the least possible subsequences, the least possible number of subsequences? So essentially, we're going to have a queue, like 2 queues. So one of the queues, and for you guys who don't know, a queue is essentially that the first number in will be also the first number out. So let's say that I put a 1 and a 2 here in that order. Then when I take the numbers out, I'll first take out the 1, and then I'll take out the 2. And if I put a number in, it will be after those 2 numbers. Alright. So I'll have 2 queues. So this is queue number 1, and this is taking in the indexes, I guess you could call them, such that the last number placed in was a 1, or yeah, such that the last number, or we can just say the last number placed in was a 0. So I'll actually name this Q0. So all the indexes that come into this queue, the last number in it was a 0, and then we have this Q1, and all the indexes that are placed into queue number 1 have the last number of a 1. So now with this, I will essentially go through all of the bits in this string, and I'll say, okay, for this, is it a 1 or a 0? If it is a 1, I will look in this queue and see, or if it's a 1, I will look into queue number 0, because I want to place the 1 after a 0, and I'll say, okay, are there any elements left in this? And if there are, I'm just going to take the first one out. So in this case we don't have any, so I also have to create a curnum variable which says, okay, which index are we currently at? So right now it's just equal to 1, and because there are no sequences that have the last number of 0 in it, I have to assign this one to the curnum, so that's 1, and I increment it, so now it's 2. And now I have to put this one into the queue. So now the index of 1 currently has the last number of 1, and that goes into the number 1 queue. Now I go to the next element. So the next element will be 0. So I say, okay, I want to pair the 0 with a 1. So then I look at the number 1 queue and I say, alright, there is already an index which has the number 1 as the last one. So then I will pair this element with the index that was in the queue. So that is a 1, and then I will remove it from the queue. And because I just added a 0 to the index 1, I'm now going to add this to queue number 0. So now I go to the next element. The next element is 1. And then I say, alright, I want to pair this with something that has a 0 at the end, so I go to key number 0, and I say, okay, there's an element inside it. I'm just going to take the first one and pair it with that. So now the last number at index 0 is a 1, and like our process, we put this into key number 1. Alright, now we have something interesting. Now we have another 1 here. So I look at key number 0 and I see, okay, it is currently empty. Currently, none of the indexes have a 0 as the last one. So now I have to take I look at the kernum and I assign it to this number right here. So now this is 2, and then I increment this. So now we have a 3 here. And now I will go to the next element, and I say, okay, we have a 0. Oh, and also, like I said before, so the last element placed for index 2 was a 1, so I'm now going to put this in key number 2. So now I look at the 0 and I say, okay, I want to pair this with something which has 1, and I say, okay, we take the first element in key number 1 and we pair it with this 0. So the 0 will be at 1, and I put the 1 at key number 0. And then, like a process, we go to this element over here, so number 1, and I say, okay, I want to pair number 1 with a 0. So then I look at key number 0, I say, okay, I pair it with the 1 now, and I remove it from here, and I add this to key number 1. And then the last number, I say, okay, I have a 0, I want to pair it with a 1, and then I say, alright, there's an element at number 2, so I assign this to number 2, and I put this at the number 0 queue. And now that we've gone through all of the bits in this binary string, we now have our sequence of answers. So I will print out the kernum minus 1 because we used 2 of the numbers, not 3, because we never used this third number. So I print out the kernum minus 1, and then I just print out this sequence. So it's 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. And if I look at this sequence, I can see that this is actually going to give us the correct answer, because for string 1, and I have 2 strings, string 1 and string 2, and string 1 will be 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. See? So these 3 numbers over here, and the 4th and 5th number, and then string 2 would just be 1 and 0. And this is exactly what the problem is asking us for. So this is how you solve this CodeForces problem D. So thank you guys for watching this video on the CodeBakery, and I hope that you guys can also watch other videos on the CodeBakery. And thank you, and goodbye.